Hello and welcome to today's webinar on unlocking the secrets to smart PPE management. My name is Jason Dane and I'm a journalist and futurologist engaged in charting developments in the Internet of Things and other technology trends. I'm very proud to be presenting this webinar today, being your host. Before I introduce you all to our distinguished panel, I'd just like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. We are aiming for today's webinar to last around 45 minutes, and it is an interactive session. So as our speakers are presenting, I encourage you all to post questions in the chat box that you have in the bottom right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. Our speakers will answer the questions once the presentations are finished, and we will try to get through as many as possible. If we don't have time for all of them, then don't worry. We'll see if we can get back to you individually with any answers that we can't deal with today. And now I'd like to commence with the session. I'm delighted to be joined today by three industry experts who are going to take us through how the age-old personal protective equipment sector is becoming more effective and more efficient thanks to new technology. Leading off today will be Ben Scholes, the CEO of Papertrail, who will show us how PPE management is being transformed by new technology platforms. Then we will have Rob Partridge, Product Manager at Degin, who will give us an update on how the PPE manufacturing industry is also embracing new technology. After that, Mike Royle of Papertrail will give us a demonstration of a smart PPE management system in action. And then we'll dive straight in with your questions. So, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Ben. Please take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Jason, and extend my thanks as well to all of the Papertrail team for putting all the effort in behind the scenes. I'm aware of all the organising it takes to put these events together, so many thanks, and also extended thanks to Rob Partridge from DMM. For coming in today. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for the free goodies as well. He's brought some t-shirts, so I'm sure they'll be appreciated by the team as well. So for my part of the presentation and the webinar, I just wanted to start with this slide, which provides a bit of background of where I'm coming from when it comes to designing management systems. Papertrail's focused on helping companies with keep inspection records, and predominantly are systems used by people keeping PPE inspection records. I've had a few comments in the chat box there of different industries that people work with, but when we started out, we were heavily focused on the adventure sector, ropes parks and climbing walls, but we've also supported the public sector, rescue, emergency services, energy companies, telco, sector in also designing their management systems. And the thing that the reason why I want to sort of get that across is because of the same principles apply to everybody when it comes to PPE management, and they fall down into four areas. Four key principles really is ensuring that your company or business or organization has a system to be able to add new equipment purchased into, in terms of when it was purchased and where you bought it from. A way to be reminded of when inspections are due. So it might be that you just have a Google Calendar or something like that to remind you that when inspections, the statutory inspections, are due. And then a system to be able to should be able to show evidence of when inspections are carried out. So again, whether that's a spreadsheet, you populating that with the dates of when the last inspection was. And then finally, the fourth principle that everyone has is a way to identify damaged equipment as well. And we find that the language for that is quarantine. So it's not to be used until further action. So hopefully that just gives you a bit of an overview of where we're coming from at Papertrail when it comes to designing PPE management systems, where they are now and how they are getting smarter. Certainly since we've introduced Papertrail, the sort of the trends that we're starting to see. So in terms of a smart system, previously management systems have been sort of human generated. They're either on paper or on spreadsheets, and they require somebody to go in and manage them all the time. PPE brands in the past have invested in software solutions. The famous one that we get a lot behind the scenes at Papertrail is the Petzl Easy Inspect system. It's just unfortunate that they're not able to carry on investing with those solutions when it comes to the speed that our devices and our operating systems are being developed. So Petzl have had one in the market, Kong have one for their inspectors, Bial and a couple of others have also introduced them in the past. And we've been able to sort of carry that on, really. We migrate a lot of people from spreadsheet systems or old software systems into the Papertrail platform to start that journey. And the reason why we've sort of focused on it is because we recognise that PPE manufactured all around the world in all these different industries, whether you're in the adventure sector or whether you're in a renewable energy firm, there's no standard way of doing it, really, and there's no way of a manufacturer being able to communicate to you if there is an issue or a certain thing that they'd like to pass on to you, not for just legally, but out of the fact that they want you to be safe when you're using their equipment as well. And that's where we've been quite successful, and we've had a lot of energy behind people supporting us, carrying on designing Papertrail to meet those needs and make these management systems a little bit smarter. It's hard as a software company to build every functionality straight off the bat, so we've really narrowed it down to 5 areas that if you are a PPE inspector, the real must-haves that you can start to see now as your inventories and your management systems get bigger and more cumbersome. Bullet pointed on the screen here in terms of being able to be notified if there's a recall or a self-inspection, instead of having to go through your entire inventory serial number by serial number. Not having any IT issues or data issues, or a spreadsheet getting lost, or if you're part of a local authority or a larger organisation, having to be compliant with your own internal IT systems. Digital certificates of ownership, being able to prove that you've got an authentic equipment, that it's not stolen or it's not from a fake manufacturer. Fourth one for us is where we've focused really hard, is putting it on mobile. So everybody's got a device in their pocket now with a mobile phone, tablets. Being able to do those inspections offline and not have to go back and forth to a spreadsheet or another system is really important to make your management systems smarter. And then also the inspection evidence. It's really nice when we see inspectors hand that piece of paper across with that they know the quality is there, not just the formatting of it, but in terms of the information on that certificate that they might provide at the end of the inspection process, who did it, when they did it, and the outcome of that inspection as well. So in terms of managing volumes of inspections, the same, like I said at the start, the same principles apply across all markets, but the way it's getting a bit smarter is manufacturers are now providing unique identities on equipment. We've already traditionally done that with labeling in ourselves or people putting on barcodes onto things, but that's now coming from the manufacturer. We're starting to see more scannable technology. The examples with Petzl equipment is through the QR code or data matrix. Singing Rock is another brand that do that. And we're about to hear from Rob how DMM have taken it another level. Being able to record the date of manufacture, the date of first use is now ingrained in a lot of legislation and regulations if you're being audited. The compliance around doing the inspections within the schedule, within the period, and then the history as well. So being able to see this lifespan from cradle to grave. So when you first started using it all the way through, you took it out to retirement, that's useful information that we're noticing people are able to collect with a smarter system to be able to help predict future purchasing or how long equipment is actually lasting within your inventory. So the last slide for me is this one in terms of we really believe, having watched people go through this transition of simple systems and then becoming a bit bigger and then becoming a bit smarter, that the future really is in the product data coming from the manufacturer, what we call the source of truth, and also providing a simple software tool, one that is easy to pick up. And that's the message I want to leave really as part of this webinar. I know the guys here are nodding their heads. No interaction from the audience at all, but apart from the questions coming in. So yeah, management systems we are seeing become smarter. The principles are still the same. We just need to automate it and make it a little bit slicker for everybody out in the market. So that's my presentation, Jason. I think I hand back to you now to see if there's any questions, or if you can guide us through the next stage, really. Thank you very much.
Just wanted to ask a very quick question, which is, when where does the impetus come from to install this kind of advanced management system? Typically, what's the starting point for the kind of projects, and why would people be looking at this? Maybe the starting point for a smart PPE management system. Could you just give us a quick comment on that, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it depends. It depends usually of the size of the inventory. So if you're a small company and you've got a handful of equipment, then sometimes you're able to manage that. You will inspect it all on the same day. So being able to have a static list, and then even if it's a reminder on your notice board that says on this date we're going to inspect all our equipment, that suffices. It's when your inventory gets a little bit bigger, or the reliance in your equipment is the consequence of it not being in service is a bit bigger to your operations. So for those that have said that they're in adventurous activities, it might be that you've only got so many trolleys on your zip wire, so you want to make sure that they're all in service. So it's usually when people are starting to find faults with their own system, or they start to think, I'm spending too much time on this now. There's got to be a smarter way of doing it.
Thank you very much for that. I'd like to hand over now to Rob Partridge, who's the product manager at DMM. If you're at all involved in the PPE industry, you've probably heard of the brand. I'll let him talk a little bit more about the history behind that, and more importantly, how that is now evolving thanks to the advent of new technology. So, Rob, if you want to take the floor, over to you.
Hi, Jason. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm going to pick up where Ben left off when he was talking about identity of PPE. When DMM started making carabiners about 40 years ago now, the ambition was to keep people off the ground, keep them safe, and we made carabiners, and we made lots of them. And over the last sort of decade or so, probably longer, it's become really important for customers to be able to uniquely identify between the different carabiners or different items of PPE that they buy from us and every other manufacturer. So you can see in this slide that the last 10 digits of the number that's laser etched onto that carabiner is the unique identity of that carabiner, and the person in that slide's painfully reading and typing in that serial number to try and update their current PPE inspection platform or software with the result of the inspection of that carabiner, pass or fail, for example. And this really triggered both Ben and his ambition to make lives easier when they're inspecting PPE, and that fed into the conversation early on in the days with DMM, when we were recognizing that as well and trying to make it less painful for people to manage hundreds or thousands of bits of PPE. And one of the briefs that came out of our early sort of research into that was to take the unique identity of PPE away from being a readable digit or 10-digit number like you can see on the screen to a scannable number, but also to make it a durable number, because as the attendees to this webinar will know better than me, the abuse that this kit gets out in the real world quickly means that the serial numbers on these carabiners can look much like this one after quite a short time frame, at which point the serial number becomes virtually unreadable or completely unreadable. That either makes it incredibly slow to read and type that number, and in the worst case, after 6 months, for example, when your next thorough inspection comes around, perhaps even only 6 months after the first use of the carabiner, the number's unreadable, and at that point you can't link that carabiner to the unique history of that carabiner in your safety management system, and you're no longer able to prove the lifespan of the product, which often results in these carabiners and multiple other types of PPE being discarded and thrown out, even though the product itself is usable and safe to continue using. The traceability of the product is gone. So durable and scannable were the main criteria at the beginning of our search for a technology that could help us uniquely identify our PPE. And we searched through a variety of different things. Ben's already mentioned QR codes and data matrix, barcodes. And we got to the latest technology that's really being adopted across other industries, across other marketplaces, called radio frequency identification. RFID was developed to replace the barcode because it's no longer a line of sight scan. So where you previously scan a barcode on a t-shirt hang tag, RFID allows customers to scan the entire contents of a cardboard box full of t-shirts, for example. But our challenge was, our currency, our bread and butter is small metal components, just like the carabiner on the screen. And RFID radio waves don't pass through metal items. So we started from quite a hard position where pure science was telling us this wasn't going to work. And we've got it to the stage, Jason, where RFID allows customers to scan a carabiner on contact. Not, for example, through a cardboard box, but to be able to scan a carabiner and overcome the challenge of the unreadable serial number that you see there. So this is a three-part story, really, from DMM. We've integrated RFID technology into our carabiners and into every other item of PPE that we sell. If we haven't managed to integrate it or haven't yet brought out an example of a PPE item with RFID built into the product, we've brought a complementary range of retrofit tags or RFID tags that allow our customers to fit RFID tags and basically a digital identity to DMM products, old DMM products, or even brands of PPE that they haven't bought from us, because we're well aware that DMM can't service every requirement in PPE. The second part of the story is the information that we make available, and you'll see in depth when Mike does his demonstration just how much information DMM makes available for every piece of PPE that we manufacture. And in fact, before you start talking about software with Papertrail and deciding how you manage the information, the DMM ID system is a very flexible system. You don't actually have to install any software. It's a Bluetooth connection between the reader and the device that you choose to use. And you can consider the reader a keyboard. It's a human input device. It types the serial number for you into any field within any device and within any software. So it's very, very flexible. The third part of the story is what you use to manage that information. And there are options to download the information into Word documents or CSV files if that's how customers are choosing to manage the information. But we really try and communicate to our customers that if you're downloading that information, for example, into an Excel spreadsheet, you're really limiting yourself as to the efficiency that you can manage that information with. So Mike's going to demonstrate what it looks like to take the DMM information and put it into Papertrail and how to use that just in a minute. You can see here in this slide, somebody scanned the carabiner using a mobile phone app. This is a DMM app you see on the screen, and it's immediately brought up the image of the product that you've scanned, the part number, and it allows you to access all of the information that's relevant to using that particular carabiner, such as date of manufacture, certifications, the weight of the product, the user instructions. It gives you access to the declarations of conformity, for example. So if you were to receive let's say, a shipment of PPE, and it's come to your desk, and your job as a storeman is to convert that PPE into something that's ready to go out onto a job as soon as possible. We're really cutting down that time that it takes to take that PPE and put it into your system and use all the relevant information. And the information is coming directly from DMM, so you're not typing any of this. You're not typing the name. You're not trying to read any information off the back of the carabiner, like the certification number, for example. All of that's from the source of truth, as we like to say, from DMM. And this is where the efficiency gains start. It's not just in scanning the carabiners quickly, but within Papertrail, for example, the ability to scan multiple items and deal with them, whether you're adding inspections or inventorying them in and out of your storeroom, group tagging to create kit bags for your different staff members, or allocating PPE to vehicles, for example. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of efficiencies that Mike's well placed to show you in just a second. So that's really the story from DMM's perspective, Jason. And I'll probably hand back to you here at this stage. And how does that sound?
Thanks. Thank you very much for that, Rob. That's for me, it's fascinating as somebody who writes regularly about the Internet of Things and how new technology is changing our relationship with inanimate objects. One hears an awful lot, or one feels that a lot of these projects are going to be very high impact, high visibility things, and to see actually that this is having a really significant impact at something as humble as the carabiner. You're getting big efficiency gains in the way that you are able to allow people to work, your customers gaining efficiency, and of course that results in a operational cost reduction. So thank you very much for that. So what I'd like to do now to bring everything to life is to invite Mike Royle of Papertrail to walk us through a quick demonstration of the Papertrail platform in operation. So I'm going to hand over to Mike, but just before I do, a quick call to everyone who's listening to remind you that we are open to questions. I've got a few that have come in by email before the event, which I'll dive into as we finish. But if you do have any queries, please send them to us in the chat box, or else if you want to follow up afterwards, we'd be delighted to hear from you also via email or any of the other communications channels. Mike, over to you for your quick demonstration of how Papertrail works.
Thank you, Jason. So I'm now going to show you how you can quickly add accurate product data into your Papertrail account, how easy it is to schedule inspections for your equipment, how to report damage to a piece of equipment and add a photo of the damage if you wish to do so, how you can work more efficiently by recording multiple inspections at once, and how to produce quality inspection documents. So we're going to start by going onto the DMM ID page there, and we've got our RFID reader now, and we want to add the carabiner that we've purchased into our Papertrail account. So click on ID search, scan the RFID tag there, which is return the number that we've got in front of us. We can see the actual carabiner itself, so we can see we've got the right item, the part number, various bits of data in relation to that particular record itself, or a particular piece of equipment, sorry. The certifications, minimum breaking strain, we can see the serial number as well, so we know that we've got the right piece of kit. We've got the instructions as well if we want to have a look at the inspection instructions. So we're going to upload this data into our Papertrail account, and we'll just fill the details in. And what this will do is allow us to put this data into our account. We don't have to put it into a Papertrail account, but in this case we're going to do that. We scanned that single RFID tag. So if we click on submit, we're going to click on add to Papertrail there. As I've got my Papertrail account open there, it's taken me into the account already, and it's giving me the option of which folder I wish to put that into. So we go to the folder selection there, and we've put it in the carabiner folder. Now we can see the bare bones of the record there and all the data that's being pushed in. All we need to do now is put in the next check date. So we click on Complete Import, View in Folder. And as I mentioned there, the next check date, that's going to be different for each person. So in this case, we'll say the next check date is going to be in 2019 in February the 1st. So that's the data put into the system, minimal data input needed there. We've got the next check date. We're happy to carry on using that carabiner until we get the reminder to inspect that next time. So if we now 6 months down the line, we want to do an inspection of that particular piece of equipment. I've got my iPad there, and we're going to have a look at our mobile app. So we open up the app. Now, the good thing with the mobile app is you don't have to be connected to the internet to use it. In this case, we are. So we'll be able to see if we look in the folders there. And in the carabiners folder, we'll be able to see the Aero HMS LockSafe ID. So we've got all of the product data there should we wish to see it prior to doing the inspection. If not, we just want to inspect the item. Click on Add Inspection. In this case, we're going to say that we're going to quarantine that particular piece of equipment. We have got the options of good, monitor, missing, or we could retire that, but we're going to quarantine this one. As we're using a mobile device with a built-in camera, we can take a picture of the carabiner itself to show why it's being quarantined. And that's now attached that to the inspection. If we wish to, we can add a note onto that as well. There we are. And we click on Save. As I'm connected to the internet now, straight away that product data has been pushed into the Papertrail account. If we go back to the dashboard, we'll be able to see straight away on the recent activities that an inspection's been done. We can see who's done it, when it was done, the record that it was done on, the status of that inspection, and all importantly, the image of the item there, so anyone can see what the issue was. Now, what we can also do on Papertrail is inspect multiple items at once rather than just one. So we've gone back to the mobile app there, and imagine the rest of the carabiners that we had on the screen there, we wanted to inspect those. So we just highlight the carabiners in question. We've given them a thorough inspection, and we're happy that all of those are good to be used in the future. So we've got all of the data in front of us there. Click on Save All, and that's going to push that information through to the Papertrail account straight away. So in terms of then working more efficiently, we can get those inspections done a lot quicker that way. As we mentioned previously, using the Papertrail dashboard, we can see as an overview there how many inspections are due to be done, how many are overdue. If we've got any pieces of equipment that are due to retire in 6 months, we'll see those. Any items that have been quarantined, as we've mentioned earlier, we can see those, any missing and any that need to be monitored. So that's giving you a good overview of the account straight away. So if we wanted to produce an inspection document to show the history of this particular piece of equipment, if we click on the record itself, when we go into that particular record, click on Actions, Print Export, we've got the choice of producing a PDF or a CSV if we wish to do so. In this case, we'll produce a PDF. We click on Open. We can see there the data related to that individual record, more importantly, the serial number that was connected to that. We can see the upload images, so we can see the image itself. And we can also see any inspections that have been done using Papertrail, who did it, when they did it, what the outcome was, and a copy of the inspection image as well. So if you ever need that data, that's there immediately for you. If you wanted to produce an inspection report for multiple pieces of equipment, you do also have the capability to do that if you wish. Pick the particular pieces of equipment that you wish to report on, highlight those, and it's the same procedure. We can print export and produce a PDF document. Now what we can do on a group report is choose which data we want to include in that. so we can add in or take out fields as we wish. As we said there, print export, create the PDF. There it is straight away with a group of records with the images and the particular pieces of information that we were interested in looking at. So what have we seen? Well, we've seen how to add accurate product data into Papertrail using the RFID scanner and the tag. How we can schedule inspections with minimal data input. How to report damaged equipment by adding an inspection image to the record. How to be more efficient with record keeping by performing multiple inspections. How we can manage large inventories using the dashboard, and how we can produce quality inspection documents, whether that be for an individual piece of equipment or a group of equipment. So that's it from me, Jason. Thank you very much, and I'll pass that back.
Thank you, Mike. And I have to say the two things that leap out at me, having seen that demo. First of all, the ease of use and the intuitive user interface that you can get with Papertrail. I think perhaps more importantly is the immense power of this platform compared to traditional methods of keeping inspection data. The way that you can just run off so much information in so short time and obviously access that information from anywhere. I'm also aware, of course, that unlike most traditional mechanisms, this is a fully scalable solution so that you can use it anywhere in the world with as many items as you need. I'd just like to thank all the presenters so far, and we haven't had any questions through on the chat box, so we're still waiting, but I did have some through on email before, and I'd like to cover those off while we've got everyone on the line today. I think the one that I'd like to ask first, and probably on behalf of most people who are listening in, is around the kinds of efficiency gains and the cost reductions that you can expect when you deploy a smart PPE system. And of course, I suppose this works from a manufacturer's perspective and also from the software developer's perspective. So perhaps I'd like to invite Rob first to comment on whether he's had any anecdotal evidence or indeed any hard data from customers as to how this ability to scan things is helping people gain efficiency in their everyday operations. Rob, could you speak to that for maybe a minute or two?
Yep, I'll lean on a customer presentation I gave this week, so it's less hard data, more anecdotal. They were a large group with a lot of kit checks, a lot of processes that their national business were based around for the safety of their employees. But one of their gripes for me was our lads can spend just as much time during the day performing their kit checks and their vehicle checks and making sure they've got everything they need to go out and do their job as they are actually out doing their job. And the immediate feedback from this customer, having not yet bought into it, but it's just an anecdotal feedback, was the speed at which that they could tick off all of the inventory, all of the products, all of the items, not just carabiners and height safety PPE, but just all of the tools that they need to do their jobs as well, was really going to cut down on the time that it takes them just to get ready for the day before they go out on their job. And also, the accountability from them as well. So going outside of your question about cost saving, but enhanced features, really, they were well aware that asking their staff to do daily checks was costing them a lot of time for their employees, and the ability to actually hold their staff accountable to doing the daily checks, but not necessarily compromising as significantly on the work that they were achieving. So the cost saving, but also increasing your accountability in actually, rather than brushing your daily checks under the carpet, for example, and trying to catch up at the end of the week, just being able to actually hold your staff accountable and seeing when they're doing their checks, rather than just being handed an Excel spreadsheet at the end of the week going, "See, boss, I've done all my daily checks," and they've caught up at the end of the week, for example. So there's time saving, but the increased accountability that comes with the time saving using Papertrail combined with scanning your tools, not just height safety, but everything, was really good. And the other sort of more figure-based feedback I can give you is, and Ben can probably elaborate on this further, one of our combined customers, who's a RATA training center, has significantly cut down on the time that they have to close shop in order to thoroughly inspect all of their PP well, in their country it's every year, so they're only seeing this time saving once per year. But I think when they went from having no management system or no real robust management system, they cut down their time from 2 weeks to 1 week, something like that. Ben will correct me if I'm wrong. And then adding scannable PPE into that mix, they then cut it down to a couple of days rather than a week. So we are seeing a significant reduction in time, both in efficiency of management but also scanning your PPE into your system. You're almost, in some instances, halving the time that you're taking to do it. But the feedback as well, Jason, I won't skip over, is thorough inspections in the UK are twice a year. In Europe, for example, once a year. And in some countries, there isn't a legislation about that yet. So scannable PPE and Papertrail don't just help with your thorough inspection once or twice per year, but also just with your day-to-day management and moving of your PPE between jobs, keeping track of the usage of your PPE so that you know the history, not just passing or failing 6 monthly inspections, but what kind of geological location did they go on to, and does that contribute to the thorough inspection as to why it's covered in sap or particularly dusty or seen some corrosion from salt water, for example. So managing your daily and weekly inventory of your kit and the lifespan of your kit is really where customers are seeing incredible time saving, not just in that once or twice per year thorough inspection as well.
Thank you for that, Rob. Very, very interesting. I'm going to pass the question over to Ben for any further comments, but also I'd like to ask you, Ben, whether there's the flip side, of course, is how difficult it is to deploy some of these smart PPE systems. So maybe you could also comment on that. What's the cost of actually implementing something like this at the same time?
Okay, cool. Well, there's some really good examples that we get given as leading on from Rob's response around the time saving, where companies might have traditionally down tooled or not delivered their service or activities whilst they were doing inspections of equipment. There's a clear time saving there, and training companies globally, we've heard of cut down by 50%. So and it depends, the time saving depends as well on the size of your inventory. If you're a big firm and you're buying 1,000 items at once, then that's a whole day of inputting that into a spreadsheet or more. So there's quite clear time savings. And people, you're right to ask the question as well about the cost, because people are only going to buy it as well, or buy into the system if they are going to get some return on that investment as well. So that's usually where people look for the return on investment in terms of the time savings that they can get. So how long does it take them to do the admin now? How long are they taking if they've been audited or got to provide this information for a third party or a different type of inspection? Go through that transition onto a digital platform and be able to capture the benefits of how much time it's taking now, and also how more improved you are from a compliance point of view. In terms of your second question there, Jason, was around cost. It's hard to give a figure for every organisation, but there's the cost of a Papertrail license. So that's dependent on the amount of people and the size of your inventory. We've got lots of different packages that people can choose dependent on their industry and the size of business. I guess there'll be a cost of making you're uniquely identifying your equipment as well. So whether that's just writing serial numbers on it or buying the scannable equipment, there's an increased cost if you're buying the equipment with RFID already built into it. And then there's the cost of setting it up. So that deployment bit, I mean, at Papertrail, we try and make it as simple as possible. If we can help, then we do spreadsheet uploads, for example. So you're able to, pass over a spreadsheet with your 500 items of equipment, and it's one button to upload it into the system. But admittedly, it is the hardest thing of getting started with Papertrail. There's a time investment, building your inventory, getting your stuff onto a platform. But then the next year when you come round, it's already there, so you can just search for those items, or 6 months, however long. So that's my answer really in terms of the what does it cost to get started.
Thanks for that, Ben. Just very briefly, I know we're coming up to the end of our session, but there is probably time just for one further quick question and answer. And again, related to cost, I mean, when we were looking at the demo that Mike showed us earlier, it did seem very, very intuitive. But just a quick question: when you do implement these smart PPE systems, is there much of a need for training? How's that dealt with? Maybe you could just quickly comment on that.
Well, we provide training for anybody online, whether that's through Mike's team of people like demoing, or as a web application specialist showing how it can be used in your organization, or whether that's a formal training on site. We do find though that small businesses are happy to sit down and get on with it, upload the stuff, and like I say, it's really intuitive. It's only when you're in a large organization where you might need somebody to help facilitate training that we do that. So we find it's very little though. Most people pick it up very quick and they don't need much. We're all used to using our mobile phones now, and I mean the slide actually that's on the screen now, the DMM Minion, there's some examples there with case studies. We'll share these slides afterwards so people can click on them, but in each of those case studies it probably talks about how well, I know that it talks about the time of setting them up and the ease of use for adopting or embracing a new digital management system.
Thank you very much for that, Ben. Well, it looks like we're coming up to our allotted 45 minutes. So I'd like to just thank our panelists today, Ben Scholes and Mike Royle of Papertrail, and of course Rob Partridge from DMM. I'd also like to thank all of you for joining us. As Ben was mentioning, there is more information available in the slides that we'll be distributing, and also, of course, on the Papertrail and DMM websites. We do invite you to join the conversation. And of course, if you have any further questions that you'd like to put to us, we're ready and waiting to hear them. So we invite you to submit questions to us by email or any of the other communications channels. That's it for now. Thank you very much to everybody, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you again at another webinar very soon. Thank you, and bye.